Alabama to Alaska, Montana to Missouri, California to Colorado. From across the nation, thousands of American citizens arrived in front of the Washington Monument to promote one simple mantra in our nation's capital: we are everywhere.
A march is a way to call attention to an injustice when you don't really have the means to pass laws.
By the 1970s, there was already almost 3 decades of gay and lesbian activism. As far as I know, it was in 1978 when different parts of the United States, different activists began saying it was time for a march on Washington.
The National March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights of 1979 was the first march on Washington of its kind and remains one of the largest marches for gay rights to date.
By 79, there were a lot of people saying, we're ready. We did it for all these other groups. We've done it for other movements. Why can't we march on Washington?
A precursor for the march was opposition from Anita Bryant and her anti-gay campaign, Save the Children. Bryant described homosexuality as twisted and perverted. She had so much political influence in Florida that she was able to overturn an anti-discrimination ordinance with 70% of the vote. Her campaign to end gay rights succeeded in persuading many Americans that homosexuality was a sickness. Anita Bryant did not respond to our multiple requests for an interview.
It was illegal to be gay in all 50 states. So if you were gay, you were a criminal. Well, if you're a criminal, then you really shouldn't be a teacher. And if you fill out an application and say you're not a criminal and you're gay, then you just lied on your application.
There was a great tragedy, right, that happened, which was the assassination of Harvey Milk, who was the first elected openly gay city supervisor in San Francisco. And he had really been fighting for the March on Washington.
The organizers of the march found it was their responsibility to carry on Milk's philosophy and to create a national march on Washington to promote gender equality.
Harvey's position on that is it's not organize, 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 it's come out, come out, come out. And what better way to come out than to get people to go to a large national event and have them see one another.
Joe Smeniak outlined the march's primary goals for improving the lives of lesbian and gay citizens.
One was pass a comprehensive lesbian gay rights bill in Congress, which amazingly still hasn't been done all these years later.
Well, you have to remember that in 1979, gay people had no rights. That in most states it was illegal to have gay sex. That there wasn't a single state with an anti-discrimination law.
The second goal was to issue a presidential executive order banning discrimination based on sexual orientation in the federal government.
Third was repeal all anti-lesbian gay laws.
We wanted to repeal the sodomy law. We wanted to repeal the laws against cross-dressing. If the police officers thought you had 3 articles of clothing or makeup that was not appropriate for your gender, you could be arrested on the street.
The fourth goal was to end discrimination in lesbian mother and gay father custody cases.
We were perverts. We were criminals. We were sick. It wasn't until, 73, the American Psychiatric Association finally took us out of being a mental disorder. In 79, we wanted to stop being criminal. So that you could make love with your loved one and not be breaking the law. These are constitutional things. They're not the gay agenda, they're the American agenda to have equal rights for people. That was the essence of it. It's, what you call the gay agenda. We want equality. We want to remove the laws that were against us, have laws that protect us, and be equal. To me, that's why we were marching.
On Sunday, October 14th, 1979, a day now known as Coming Out Day, over 125,000 gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, and straight supporters came out to protest unfair laws and regulations on gay individuals.
The feeling of arriving and seeing first tens and then hundreds and then thousands of other people who you can just tell who are coming to Washington, D.C. to participate in this big event.
It was an amazing experience because none of us had ever seen that many lesbian, gay, people and their supporters in one place at one time.
Imagine coming from a small town in Arkansas or Montana where maybe you had a handful of gay or lesbian friends, and then you go to Washington, D.C. and you're among, a sea of 100,000 people.
Starting at Washington, D.C.'s 4th Street, protesters marched around the National Mall and past the White House, ending the march between the reflecting pool and the Washington Monument.
We marched by state, and the people coming farthest were the first marchers. First we had handicapped people in wheelchairs and things, and then we had Hawaii, and then Alaska.
It was really, really joyous. And I mean, a lot of tears. There was a whole contingent of gay people who were deaf. And so they all marched, I love you. So they all marched like this, which stands for I love you. And I just remember totally losing it.
The creators of the march fulfilled their responsibility of carrying on Milk's legacy while creating a foundation of rights still prevalent today. This singular event spawned many other marches and protests to come. It created a sense of unity in the LGBT community that had not yet existed.
The main thing for us is that we go there and we see one another and we feel charged up and encouraged, and we feel like better and more deserving people than we did before we got there. And then we take that home. And then back home, that enhances gay pride activities, marches, parades.
The 5 people who actually came from Montana and had a banner and participated in the march, they never saw so many LGBT people in their life before.
And we get more people to come out and feel good about themselves. And the march had effect on the overall movement, just as Harvey had suspected. It's not organize, it's come out. Everybody who went would have called it a success in their lives.
Yeah, no, I think it was a huge success.
Extremely. Without a doubt. As I said, we may not have the exact numbers correct of how many people showed up, but from that march, we showed that grassroots organizing from the bottom up can take place. We showed that people from 50 states were able to mobilize. We were not racist and sexist. We tried our most to show that the LGBT community could have gender parity and minority participation. We focused in that the arc of history, the next step is that there is going to be a national movement, just like there were other civil rights movements, that our time was here. We were also able to show bigots like Anita Bryant and these people that there are millions of fellow American citizens who are LGBT and are not going to take this anymore.
It made public something that was so completely hidden to the vast American public at the time.
It certainly showed that there were a lot more of us who were politically active than had people had thought before.
Every person who marched was affected, and then the closet gay person or the parent with a gay child who is walking and watching the group go by and seeing, oh my God, it's not just me, it's just not my son. There are thousands of people, and eventually hundreds of thousands of people, who are out and walking. It really does help to change society.
You operate under the theory that we're going to Washington and tell them suckers what we want. That's rhetoric. You don't march on Washington, you don't go to gay pride parades to tell anybody anything. You go to those events to see one another. Because if you want to get equality, what you do is you elevate the individual thinking of gay and lesbian people to the point where they won't settle for second-class citizenship. The theory is that we didn't march for them, we marched for us.